Hello and welcome to the DynamicCIO LinkedIn Live show. This is the place where we get leaders, visionaries, and practitioners from the domains of business and IT. In this series, we have had lots of such leaders talk about different facets of technology and technology-led businesses. Now, before I put the spotlight on our guest for today's conversation, let me give you some context to our conversation that we are going to have today. After a short lull during 2020, the technology, hardware, software, and services markets have started showing great signs of recovery. If we believe in the numbers that Gartner's and other analyst agencies throw at us, then the global IT spending will be approximately in the region of $4.2 trillion in 2021. Which is an increase of about 8.6% from 2020, which is a very remarkable and heartening news. The technology spending is entering in a new phase, which is very cautious, which is also very outcome-based, and that solely focuses on bettering the customer experience, if I can rephrase that. While many companies still suffer revenue declines, and other challenges, the IT spending is accelerating ahead of the revenue expectations. And there's a reason behind that. Boards and CEOs alike are willing to invest in technology that has a clear tie to the business outcomes. We spoke about the global IT spending. Now, Indian IT spending is not far behind as far as the percentage numbers are concerned. It is expected to grow 8% and will touch around 93 billion this year, which is a great news for all of us. Now, with this as a background, today I have the honor of having Sunil Gupta, the co-founder and CEO of Yotta Infrastructure, a very refined leader, a veteran in technology, and today's poster boy in the data center industry, if I can say so. Let's begin today's live show without any further ado. How are you doing, Sunil? It is our pleasure to have you with us on this show.
Thank you very much, Rahul, for these kind words. And I think the context has been extremely relevant nowadays. So thank you for having me.
Great, it's my pleasure. So let's directly dive into some very intriguing questions that I have prepared for you. And I know the kind of orator you are, you will extremely be powerful in your statements. So while there were initial shocks and challenges that we saw from the beginning of last year, this whole duration also served as a catalyst for most businesses to accelerate their transformation to the next level from a technology infrastructure point of view. If I may ask, how do you see both the sides, the challenges as well as the opportunities?
Great question, Rahul. So let me first take the challenges and then I'll come to the opportunities. As you said, right, that both the things were visible right from the time, we got Prime Minister announcing that there is a big lockdown to, multiple stages of lockdown to, post-vaccination, the way gradual opening up, but we are still into at least a partial lockdown stage even now. So both the facets of challenges and opportunities were visible in all our personal and professional lives all the time. Challenges, if I speak specifically, let's say in our data center and infrastructure building context, we saw that we were, for example, at the peak of launching our data center in March 2020, when we got this announcement of lockdown. And for a moment, to us, and I'm sure it was to the entire world who was like having a business as usual type of a life, suddenly felt that from next day, you can't really come to office. True. From next day, the 600 workers and people who were working on your site, constructing and catching up for the next 2 weeks so that I can launch my data center, they can't do anything, right? Movement is restricted to home. So it was a big problem. And I'm sure that just like my construction site got affected, same way so many construction sites or factories where there were productions happening or where there were live operations 24/7, where physical presence of the people is required, right? Suddenly overnight, they all had to stop it and they had to figure out what to do with that. So that was definitely a big challenge. And as we know, it remained a challenge during, in a partial way for most of the period. You were able to send only limited set of people, even if you were doing some emergency services. And it was actually, I would say aggravated also by that not only you were impacted, but your supply chain also impacted. So even if you are able to create environment, a safe environment for work at your place, but you are dependent in a connected world on your suppliers and vendors. If they are not able to supply, in my case, for example, steel or concrete or any and everything which was supposed to go into my project, suddenly those supply chains also got impacted. And I could feel that even during second wave, my Noida data center is under peak of my construction. And I could see that, some moment may not be permanently, but some burst of suddenly things getting delayed by 15 days happened. So that is second impact. The part was I would say good part challenge, and the good part was that people quickly figured out how to manage this, right? What all we can do from home and what we can do from the site, how we can maze through these challenges. And as we could do, and I'm sure most of the people sitting in factories and operations and process industries did, that we made on-site arrangements. We had to figure out how to convince our laborers not to migrate to their native places and tell them that it is safer out here instead of you going to your respective villages. We had to overnight create stay arrangements, in situ arrangements at our construction site of data center for almost 400 workers. My own data center ground floor, where I was supposed to run my operations for almost 4 months, the ground floor of that facility was actually used for stay arrangements for my workers. And even till today, we have, when some floors are under construction for fit out, I have got a permanent doctor on site, permanent ambulance on site. We have got every single worker on our sites vaccinated, double vaccinated, and we do, tests and all done, in case somebody has got any symptoms. So this was on supply side challenges, but the demand side challenges also were visible, which was that while on one side digital adoption increased, and I'll come to the opposite side, but the negative part was people did everything to keep the business running, but they put off bigger decisions. So in any company at any moment of time, you do running operations and you do innovation for future. While running operations, managing it in a pandemic world, obviously everybody did whatever they could do and they did beautifully. But they all said, okay, let this pass off, and all the new project, new initiative, new things we will take up once this pandemic subsides.
Absolutely.
So for data center industry also, the bigger decisions of bigger cloud adoption or bigger outsourcing, those decisions got put off by many of the hyperscale customers or enterprises. That is a challenging part. Now, opportunities were bigger, I can say, right? Especially if we talk about the digital industry, the IT industry, right? Of course, for many industries, the opportunities were not there, like hospitality. But for IT industry, we all know the digital growth, which we saw during these 2 years, possibly country or the world would have seen that type of digital growth and adoption over 10 years. But the 10-year adoption actually happened in 2 years, right? True. And the simple example of that is our earlier generation, our mothers and fathers, who otherwise were not willing to maybe handle a smartphone. They today are so comfortable using WhatsApp videos and WebEx calls and team calls and, and Zoom calls and all. They have become very, very comfortable because there was no option left, right? While pre-pandemic, we were not happy or in managing customers' operations in a uncontrolled environment where the SOCs and NOCs have to be physically separate from rest of the operations in delivery centers. We saw every single employee of a NOC and SOC actually running his or her services sitting from home. So the NOC and SOC with 1,000 people actually was now operating from 1,000 homes instead of one single segregated locality, right? And then that actually has taken place. Our personal and professional life both would not have been possible had there been so much of digital growth. We have seen Netflix and Hotstars coming on our life, which is obviously through digital. And we also saw SAP and Oracle and the email also coming on a second screen in our homes. And both these screens are coming to us thanks to digital adoption, thanks to our digital growth. So these are great opportunities. The device business increased, the network business increased, the content generation and creation business increased, startup business increased. Automation and AI and ML business increased because you want to have less dependence on people. And of course, data center where all these things get processed and computed and analyzed and stored also increased because of that. Now, I would say these things will not stay or rather stop once the pandemic is over. We can clearly see habit formations have taken place.
True.
The word will never be only office word now. It will be a hybrid word at best. And what relative thing can change from industry to industry and our respective perceptions of every individual organizations. But you will always have a hybrid mix of people operating from home as well as from office. And and second is, now that people have seen something like this can happen, which we would have never imagined 2 years back, people now are saying that this may happen again. So let's better be prepared. So what I can clearly see now is captives are on their way out. Captive data centers where your building will become totally locked down and inaccessible. And captives, at the end of the day, you don't create them with that much of redundancy and so much of cost, which you typically put in third-party data centers. I've seen so many people migrating to my data center at the peak of pandemic simply because they were so fearful of their captive data going down. So captive is on the way out. Outsourcing in various formats, whether it is a plain co-location that you just outsource your captive, shift your captive to a third-party data center in a co-location model to start with, or your new project going to cloud directly, or a hybrid mix of something in colo, something in private cloud at a hosted level, something in public cloud or multiple public cloud. That is clearly the in thing. And same as I said earlier, we can clearly see people now trying to do more automation. The industry 4.0, the adoption of IoT, the adoption of AI and ML, so that you can have lesser and lesser dependent on people, because people are supposed to move to office and lockdown can stop them to go to office. All these, I think, are extremely, extremely big opportunities for the digital and the IT industry.
No, so nice. I mean, in the initial part of your answer to my question, you digressed towards how you and your entire team, including the workers on the ground, did not leave any opportunity to bring up this marvelous masterpiece, which is parallel to none, in the current scheme of things. You tried your best to not falter on the deadlines, because customers, because the industry was looking up to you for this exceptional piece of marvel, which is the data center. And at the same time, how you used this opportunity to recalibrate and to reimagine, how the services should be offered, how the value addition should be given to the customers, is excellent start to this conversation, Sunil. Thank you very much. So I will come to the nitty-gritties of what Yotta offers differently in the market at the later stage of my conversation with you. So we are just warming up right now. So during the initial phases of lockdown, I mean, the first one was a stringent lockdown with less impact on people's health and mortality. The second one was not as stringent a lockdown, but it had massive impact on people's lives. Mortalities were like unimaginable. But during the initial phases of lockdown, businesses started really investing in both technology and security to ensure a smooth transition from an on-prem model to a remote workforce enablement point of view. How do you see? I mean, I could extend this question a little bit. The investment was slightly chaotic as well. It was very haphazard. It was not very planned. So how do you see this transition altering the IT infrastructure landscape, and also the change in the thought process of the CIO's minds, the CTO's mind, the technology organizations, or if we talk about the businesses at large?
Yeah, Rahul, thanks. Let me just digress a bit again, that there is one trend which is visible for last so many years, which is even pre-pandemic, which was maybe because of the economic ecosystem in which we all are working as organizations, which is dynamic and unpredictable. is a movement from capital expenses to operational expenses, right? I have seen die-hard fans of capex-based spending going into OPEX-based service consumption.
Mm-hmm.
The pandemic has just accelerated or reinforced the thought towards that, simply because of the unpredictable nature of the business, where you are operating at a particular level of business today. You may have to go down because of the unpredictable environment, or you may have to suddenly scale it up simply because we did some acquisitions, or your business suddenly has got huge opportunities. And you have to respond to the market either for up or down, in both the cases very, very fast. And so many times, either you don't have that much of money to scale it up, or you cannot bear the losses of having invested and then you don't know what to do with the environment, or you cannot scale up that type of skill sets to do these things. The outsourcing as a thought has been there for last 20 years, as I said, because of economic reasons earlier and many other organizational reasons, but now pandemic has just increased that to a significant level. So what the pandemic has additionally done to that thought is, as I said, no capex spending as much as possible, which essentially mean no captive data centers, no captive bare metal purchase, no private cloud at your own premises, which means all those investments go away, right? This was already being done. What this flow has also brought into one more point, which is endpoint devices, right?
True.
As you said, the pandemic may not have done anything much to your servers, because during peak pandemic, you could not shift your captives to data centers or cloud, which you did a little bit when there was a little relaxation. But the one thing you had to mandatorily do was shifting your endpoint devices to employees' home. In case they were not having laptops, they were having desktops, or they were working on some of the heavy duty workstations, which otherwise are always in offices. And because this environment of hybrid working will remain, you can say, for a foreseeable future as a way of life for most of the companies, I can clearly see that besides at the server side adoption of outsourced data center on a colo model, or a hosted private cloud, or a public cloud of multiple public clouds, and a hybrid cloud in general, at the endpoint also, I can clearly see a adoption of VDI, or a desktop as a service.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where possibly, when I will talk a little bit about Yotta, I will share that why we went for launching desktop as a service.
Absolutely.
And we also innovated, which was possibly was not a great innovation. Many people do that, but we also ended up launching workstation as a service. Now that was a fair bit of investment from our side, but we clearly felt that while desktop people may still have alternatives, okay, let me give laptops to my employees, and the TCO calculation, all there may be some doubts here and there. But workstation, which typically cost you 5 lakh or 6 lakh rupees, and you create heavy duty files, and you have to do a collaborative environment where you have to do sharing of gigabytes of files. Now that thing you can do when you're sitting in office, but in case you have to be sitting at your home, first you cannot afford to have a 5-6 lakh worth of desktop workstation at your home. Even if you have that, you may not have that type of broadband to share those big files. So that is where we said, why can't I deliver to these enterprises who need these type of heavy duty machines on cloud itself, and they can access it through again a VDI technology on any device they may have at their home. It may be iPad or an iPhone or a normal mobile or a laptop or a desktop. So that is that adoption, and we seem to be seeing that clearly. I mean, that is one of the hottest product as of now, what we can see getting picked up. And not because of that they are doing it during pandemic, they want to do it eternally, because they know that this thing, something like this can come again, and they suddenly find that this is so very good. Any technology going forward which will help remote working, is something which now, whether it is like, how do you ensure employees are productive? How do you really measure that they are attending to office work and not personal work? Or for that matter, BYOD, that you allow employees to use their own device, right? But you are able to create two environments in that device. One is for your own personal work, but in the other environment, which is much more secure with your corporate security framework, you're able to do that as well. Any and every technology which will help this scattered way or distributed way of working is something which will be in thing. And yes, as I said, that obviously includes adoption of cloud and outsourced data centers. It obviously brings these changes at the endpoint device as well.
You very subtly mentioned certain innovations that Yotta did during this while. I will specifically come to those innovations, but as you rightly said, that anything that enables an employee to work in a hybrid environment will be not only highly appreciated. I think the uptake of those technologies, of those solutions, will be to me, it will be very natural. I may not add any more jargon to that, because every organization today has actually resolved to this fact that they are not going to return back to the pre-pandemic days, where office was the only place from where people worked, and work from home was just a luxurious option. So moving on, uh, I must say that the impact on different businesses have been felt very differently of this whole turbulence. It has disrupted more traditional business models, as well as challenged the service deliveries. This overnight shift to a growing dependence on digital platforms has certainly opened up new ways of operating. However, not all are very comfortably placed for a technology refresh, overhaul, changes, whatever we may want to say. In such a scenario, what are the most viable alternatives that come, that are available, or that can be provided to the customers? How can new technologies be adopted without much friction in the business? Now, friction is a very important part. And also, from a capex standpoint, you touched upon certain things, but if you can elaborate a little bit more.
Absolutely, Rahul. And if I again connect this question to that, it is not necessarily a question which is coming because of the pandemic related distress which has come in. This question is relevant even if the pandemic was not there.
Not there.
Cloud came into our lives possibly in a mature way 2010, 13 onwards. In India, 2014, when hyperscalers start coming in, we started coming, right? So this option, so for startups, for new age companies which are born in cloud, as we call it, right? It is very easy. The projects are greenfield projects. You don't have a legacy. You have not invested millions of dollars into your existing IT. And also you have not spent on creating large IT teams. Possibly it's very easy to start developing your products on cloud and adopting cloud right on day one. But majority of the business lie with enterprises. And this is something which I have spoken on many platforms earlier. In case of enterprises, when a CIO sees his business, heart to heart, he will say, oh, can I put everything on cloud? 0 to 1. 0 is today's status and 1 status cloud, and let me be free from all, because cloud is like a panacea of all evils. That's how you can say that. But can it happen? No, it does not happen. We know that, right? Because of this thing, that without any friction, with a business continuity and business not getting impacted even with a single minute, and because ultimately you have to serve the business, how do you actually bring in this balance between adoption of the latest trend in the technology, which are technical and commercially better, but at the same time ensuring that this transition happen in a absolutely gradual, in such a way that the business does not even get to know, it is extremely friction free from a technical point of view, from a uptime point of view, from a cost point of view, and most importantly from a cultural point of view. Now, and that is where I say that it has to be a gradual and transition process. If I talk from my data centers and cloud and this digital point of view, what we advise is take your journey step by step. Your first journey, your first problem is my pandemic or otherwise, my data center in my own building is not safe, right? It
True.
may not be that redundant. Anybody, the admin guy may switch off the power at some point by mistake and suddenly your data center is off, and there can be many other problems. First, get rid of this fundamental problem, possibly go to a third-party data center which gives you that type of reliability. Step number 1, right? That is only outsourcing at the most basic level, but you still continue to hold complete command on your hardware, on your software, on your network, on your security, complete. You don't want to do everything in one go. So this is step number 1. And it also protects your investment in your technology, because your hardware is the same which you had already invested. You want to take the full juice out of that. Second part is, as the things progress, as your technology gets into obsolescence, right? You in any case come into your next spend cycle on technology. That is the time management in any case would be more amenable to your request for a new investment. That is the time you decide and rather give good news to your management that I'm not going to take capex dollars from you. I would rather save and expense out everything for my next phase of growth. And then you go to a provider. Can you take me now? I want to have a sort of, you can say, consolidation. I want to have a refresh. I want to decide which applications and workloads can go into public cloud, which applications and workloads can go into private cloud, which application workload can still be running on my existing hardware, which may still have some juice left in that. And that is the time you decide that, okay, you still go to a maybe public cloud, and there are multiple options of Amazons and Azures and Google and the local cloud operators like us who can, you can match your requirement to that so that you get the most optimized performance. You put where you are not comfortable putting your critical workloads on cloud, you will still have an option of going for a private cloud, but that also on a usage based model and not really spending upfront investment onto that. And you have now, there's so much of frameworks available, providers and tools available where you can make all this as a single whole. You may have some workloads running in Amazon, Azure, or Google, or local public cloud, or a local private cloud, and you can still make a hybrid mix of all of them and run them as a continuous common network. Now, why I'm saying so, this journey, it can be different for different organizations. The exact steps may not be the same, but what you are ensuring is you're trying to ensure that you take the complete benefit out of your current investments. You are taking outsourcing one step at a time so that there's no disruption in the businesses. Even at the time when the step comes to adopt new technology and new investment, you try to convert the investment from capex to opex. You try to de-risk the company by not putting so much of capex right upfront. And you also then see which workloads can run in which environment the best. This cloud is good for this workload and this cloud is good for this workload. And for this workload, I would rather trust my own private cloud, which is built by me as per my own understanding of bill of material. So this, I would say, journey, I feel is, and that's what I've seen for most of the organizations, is ensuring you a risk-free, trouble-free, elongated transition for a better technology adoption, better performance driven and better uptime driven adoption, and which also makes you a much more cost effective sense compared to any other way of doing it.
I mean, what could be, this is, I would say this is a free of cost advice to most viewers who are listening to this conversation. I mean, coming from a technology leader like you, it's almost sounding like a recipe for a foolproof technology investment, and how it should gradually progress, and how you need to keep a balance of both the best worlds. So now I would move on to certain very specific questions, Sunil, which are specific to Yotta. Since the July of 2019, when Yotta made a formal announcement of its launch, what have been the key milestones that it has achieved already? What are the unique capabilities that it has brought into the market that our viewers should know?
Thanks, Rahul, for giving me this chance to talk about Yotta, Rahul. See, fundamentally, the whole reason, or I would say the genesis of Yotta was the huge digital and cloud adoption growth. And we have got, I don't need to speak about the various tailwinds in the market which are leading to this growth, which are multiplicity of them, including the government adoption of digital in a big way, data protection, data localization, cloud, content, mobile. We know that the multiplicity of the favorable business drivers which are leading to this. Now, what I could see previous to Yotta was that India has come to a stage where there's a much more significant infrastructure generation required for taking India to the next level of what we want to become, like a digital India, right? While there may be a lot of innovations in terms of applications, startups, AI, ML, IoT, everything which touches our life at the front, but all this will come to a naught unless you are creating a complete, significant, I would say, scalable, high quality and optimum cost infrastructure. And that is where the thought was, if we are able to combine the underlying resources which is land, construction, power. That is the ecosystem ultimately which is required to generate a data center with the domain expertise of people like us who have been to the industry and who have been able to learn through this, through our experiences. If you are able to combine these two things together and then deliver a much larger footprint to the needs of the country, that will be good. That will make a sense, not only business sense to all of us at here, but also it makes a sense to the industry, to the community, and to the country. That was the whole thought, and that's how it started. So we are working on that blueprint from starting, and as is visible from our various marketing and communications campaigns as well. On one side, we are building multiple data center campuses. On other side, we are developing our technology services. So we internally, we call it two personalities of Yotta. One is Yotta Colo and one is Yotta Tech. Yotta Colo mean that you take the infrastructure creation of data center campuses to a significantly larger level compared to what is present. There are numbers available. Time is not there. I could have shown you some, I would say, interesting slides where we have ratios of that compared to the population of a country. If you see the megawatt of data center capacity in a country, where India stands compared to the rest of the world, the ratio for India compared to Hong Kong is 1/3, compared to China is 1/13th, and compared to US it is 1/39. So that is the gap we have to cover. And the upper newer drivers like AI, ML type of workload, which will significantly be higher, driven by 5G, will be significantly adding to this requirement. And localization, still all the social media is out of country. All these things will be adding up to this latent, the catch up which we have to do. So on one side we are making, and as you must be seeing, I'm not talking data center building. I'm using the word data center campus all the time. And that, and possibly I can take a little bit of very humbly this credit, that we have made this dialogue of data center park and campus as the industry dialogue now, which possibly nobody was using. Maybe nobody was even talking data center with the same, maybe you can say eloquently or clarity, which possibly we started. And obviously the industry obviously is very, very vocal about what data centers are, what are the needs for it, what do they want from the government, how do they want to create an enabling environment. So I humbly can take a little bit of credit that we were able to bring this discourse in the public domain, because public need to know that this is required and the country need to do this. So we have created our campus in Mumbai. We launched the, now I can say, world's largest uptime tier 4, not only designed data center, but uptime tier 4 constructed data center, because I got that certification also. And it happens to be world's largest data center having this certification. We constructed that. We didn't record 12 months time, and last 3 months, as I said, was COVID impacted 3 months. We have been able to mobilize more than 300 enterprise customers, and it is actually, I'm yet to complete 1 year of going live with my data center. We have gone ahead with our campus creation in Greater Noida. We have taken up a 20-acre land, and my first data center building in that campus is coming up by April or May in the coming year. Again, we are trying to break records in terms of how fast you can create such a large infrastructure. Our campus in Chennai construction will start anytime. We are just waiting for the rainy season, because in Chennai the winter brings rains. So we just want to cover the bigger part of rain and then start the excavation and construction. Besides that, we are becoming, I can say, a little futuristic as to where the country may need it tomorrow, if not today. So nobody may be bringing Kolkata on their thought process today, but we feel that if India need to connect to rest of the world, it is connected from Bombay and Chennai. But the third logical element where India need to connect to rest of the world is Calcutta, up east. So we have, as you might have heard, that we picked up a large parcel of land there. We're in the process of getting approvals there. And of course, we will start, construction there as well in times to come. Besides this, we are trying to do some cherry picking where we feel, the opportunities for data may come. Gujarat Gift City is one such example, where if you notice the economic times and financial dailies, a lot of traction is happening by people now setting up their shops there. International exchanges operations are starting there. And we feel that with our operations, with also that we are able to start operations in an SEZ environment, which will be the need of the people there. We will be, and we have, thankfully, we have as my group promoting company, Hirandani's, we have a large building there already. We are taking up some floors in that building, and we'll be creating our data center there to satisfy the needs of the customers who are in that building, which includes some stock exchanges, but and also the people who are into that area. This is from a data center point of view. We are on the tech side, as you might have seen, that enterprises have forgotten only outsourcing co-location. That is the starting step. As I said, they logically want to go upward to demand private cloud, public cloud, federated cloud or multiple cloud, somebody who is able to put all these things together and manage it for them 24/7, and also deliver many other things which may be silo services, but nonetheless are being delivered. They are needed by enterprise, but needed, on a as a service model. And I gave you the example of that virtual pro graphic workstation, desktop as a service. We are almost in our final stages of launching a artificial intelligence based surveillance services, where you have any type of camera in your housing society or office or mall or roads or wherever. You get the feed of that camera, put into your AI engine and data center, and you'll be able to get AI-based intelligence. For example, somebody is wearing a mask or not, or there's a object which has been stranded at some place, and there are like 100+ algorithms which we have with our technology partner with whom I'm launching, and we're launching that service again on a services model. We're trying to go into some niche things, like, for example, there's so much of content in India. We as Indians love content, we love entertainment, we all know that. And there's so many people, there maybe the bigger studios can afford to create their own infrastructure to go online to create their own Hotstars and Netflix. But how do we cater to so much of regional content, so much of smaller players who nonetheless have got great content or who want to create content, but they don't know the wherewithal to monetize this content? So we're in the process of launching a OTT platform as a service, where people with content will be able to actually use my platform to bring that content, to create their app, create their website, bring in advertisements, bring in, for example, the recommendation engines, and are able to mobilize, monetize this platform either by way of subscription money of users, or by way of advertisements, or by way of, transaction based, pricing and things like that. So I mean, I'm just giving you some examples, Rahul, but idea is, how do you keep your eyes open? How do you see that there are needs of the industry which may not be spoken openly, but you understand the latent need of the industry? And the latent need of industry is, I want to do my business, the core business, but I want somebody to take care of everything which is running below the business and give me at a right quality, right scalability, and right price point. And that is what we are trying to look across industries and across verticals.
No, so you began by saying, by talking about two personalities of the organization, which is Yotta Colo and Yotta Tech. And then you described about the fact that it is not a data center, it's a data center campus. Now that itself gives me a flavor of a very different and distinct kind of thought process, because traditionally, when we talk to a data center player, we visualize racks, we visualize that most of the organizations who are the users would have put, would have bought server space, rack space in that, and that's about it. I mean, I'm sure gradually, this whole industry has progressed and evolved. But the kind of services that you're talking about, I mean, the example of the surveillance service is exemplary. It's an eye opener for me, and I'm sure those who listen to it. The example of OTT platforms who can host in Yotta is another exemplary use case which we will see growing in the future. So I understood from you that strategically you have already placed your bets in the country, be it Mumbai, which is of course the epicenter, be it North India, in Noida, you are coming up with a 10-acre data center campus, Chennai, and you have very wisely chosen Kolkata, and you rightly said that not many people prefer to go to that location for whatever reason it is, but yeah. Being the newest entrant in the data center space, you seem to be experimenting with a lot of things than those conventional services, just like conventional services. We spoke at length about those, I mean, co-location and others. Uh, you briefly mentioned computing as a service or workstation as a service, virtual GPU solutions, several disruptors which weren't really heard of too much. I mean, they might have been there, but not as pervasive as they are today. How would you sum up Yota's tryst with innovation, and where is this whole innovation equation coming from?
Uh, as I said that we maybe at some point of time, I will take you through our mission and vision of Yotta and operating values. These are the three things we try to follow to the core. It is there everywhere in our presentations, our internal, town halls and everywhere. And we might have taken almost like 1 year before we actually finalize those. And there was a complete brainstorming internally, with the promoters and within Yotta management, that what are we, who are we, and what do we want to do. Yes, creating large data center park, ultimately satisfying some fundamental need of the country and of the customers, right? Creating these services again is a means to achieve some end purpose. And then we realized that my end purpose actually was not just a hosting or a co-location or a cloud. It is a means to achieve some bigger purpose. And that is where we connected to the thought of that my bigger purpose possibly is meeting digital India needs. I can connect to that bigger aim, right? And the moment I convert my thought process from a means to achieve some services or like hosting or data center to a bigger aim, suddenly anything and everything which meets that bigger aim becomes a part of your to-do list, that you need to do this also, right? So essentially then, and that's why you said data center, possibly you will envisage a building with racks and power and cooling, because that is what maybe a data center do. But if I say that for me, creation of a data center is a part of achieving a bigger purpose, and the bigger purpose is meeting digital India needs. Now, digital India need also is that customers also say that I cannot be adept at all the newer technologies which are coming in. Can you as a service provider not only deliver me the underlying data center fabric, but also deliver me everything which I require to run my business, right? And that is where the Yotta tech story started coming in. And the moment you start looking at different customers of different sizes, SME, large, extra large, and the moment you start looking at across verticals, right? And today in my organization, not only we have different business units handling different products, they only eat, sleep, and drink their products, but I also have vertical heads who are actually just trying to see proactively what my vertical needs. And suddenly we realize the language or the need which a healthcare, for example, company is needing, maybe a hospital is needing. And thankfully in our group, we have a hospital also. So we had the, the privilege of talking to the doctor, the CEO, and actually get a lot of ideas into what that industry needs. And same is with education, same is with manufacturing, within manufacturing, auto and things like this. And we saw that the needs of every industry is that one is everybody is too much engrossed in how they promote their business, how do they grow their business, and how do they reduce their cost. So the thinking of the past that I need to do everything on my own, even if it's not directly related to business, is gone now across industries. They want all that to be outsourced. And that is where the bigger opportunity lies. And that is where I would say Yotta's twist of with innovation is coming in, that there is an opportunity across board. We need to open up our eyes. We need to increase the level of our thought and see how I can combine the needs of that customer, right? Bring in some innovation, map it to my underlying infrastructure, cloud, and data center story, and deliver a unique product. In fact, none of these products have come because of some great rocket science thinking from our side. We just understood customer need, identified one or two industry partners, who can bring in that application layer or that connect layer which touches the customer, mapped it to my infrastructure and my capability and my go-to-market expertise and productization expertise, and we took to market. And that is what, because of this bigger thought that I need to go and serve anything and everything which meets the needs of digital India, there's no limit to what we can do. Every day we are thinking, oh, this we can do this also. Oh, we can do this also.
No, I understood. And that reflects the kind of services and the kind of offerings that you are offering. That you are launching in the market. It all reflects, how carefully you are choosing and placing your bets, and where the traction will be in the future. You are sensing it very carefully. So, what's the? I'm coming to the fag end of our conversation, which has been very, very wonderful so far. So, a last few questions to you, Sunil. What's the approach you take to partner with various OEMs, or be it the hardware vendor, be it the software vendors, and how do you leverage Yotta's capabilities and their product depth to co-create those winning solutions?
Thanks for asking this question, Rahul. And again, I would say this thing also is a part of our operating values, and not because this is some magical words which are good to talk in an event and a platform like this, right? Simply because very genuinely and very selfishly for my business, you need to depend on your connected ecosystem, right? Your partners, if you try to take them in a conventional way, vendors who need to be treated the way vendors are, which is a traditional mindset, you are writing the recipe of your own doom, right? Just like you are a business and who have got visions and ambitions, so is the case with partners. And if you are able to make a dialogue and a framework in which you and partners can work together, and both the parties are happy at the end of the day, right? And you make the relationship much more deeper with each other instead of a transactional opportunity based relationship, you will suddenly see commitments much more than what is written in the MOUs and contracts between you and your partners will start coming in. The human commitment will start coming in, and that is what I can clearly see. So some of the fundamentals, if I just give you the example again, Rahul, that all my services, okay, let me give you some other facets of this. Even for my co-location, on the face of it looks like I have all the expertise in-house. Hiranandani expertise and Yotta's domain expertise, everything is in-house. But still, when you are building data center, you are buying products from 15 different vendors. You are tens of people who are doing the servicing, either civil or electrical or air conditioning systems or automation into a data center.
Absolutely.
When we have done in day-to-day affair, not only in some big events when we thank partners and all, but even day-to-day, you will actually check with our partners and in our this thing that when we did any milestone, when we reached tier 4 design, when we reached tier 4 construction certification, the first people who come in the forefront in all our dialogues into thanking them is that, no, this is not my project only. You have as much right to claim the success of this project as your success as it is my success, and that is genuinely so. If a Schneider, if a Stools, if a Socomac, if a Blue Star, if so many of them, next gens, all of them, I could not have been successful unless they actually worked hand in hand with me. And we have seen, especially during peak COVID times, how they literally supported us, even while some of their people were, let's say, impacted by COVID and still able to make ways. Partners were actually putting their people on our site in our in our residential apartment just to deliver project for us. So that is one part of it, that we genuinely believe in joint partner working, and we genuinely see partners as partner. Second part, which was your main question, was that it is simple. If I have to deliver everything as a service to the end customer, let's say to a hospital or to a school or a university or whatever, the application and the business process layer generally comes from the partner because they are operating in that domain. Everything which goes to support that application, making it multi-tenanted, supporting it on a cloud and data center and network and security, that is the layer which I bring in, right? So it's very logical we join hands and combine this together, productizing it, which is the easy word than the easier said than done, which most of the time people are not able to do. They have technologies, but they don't know how to productize and make a monetary sense out of this technology or product on a services model. That is what we do. And then we actually take that to market. Fundamental thing what we do is, anything what we do is, we never do it on a transaction basis. So if I am committing to a partner that this, for example, product I'll take to market along with you, then I literally just go with that partner. It's not like, okay, for this customer deal, I'm talking to you, but next customer deal, I'm talking to somebody else simply because the somebody else happened to be 3% cheaper, So you actually start behaving like one entity with your partner. So whether it is going to market together in terms of your marketing campaigns, in terms of your sales campaigns, in terms of service delivery, in terms of even trouble, how you handle customer trouble tickets and supports and things like this, we practically get married with the partner for that service. And that brings, that commitment of the partner, and partner says, oh, this service is as much mine as yours. So just like you are selling the service, I will also sell the service, right? And that is great for partner as well, because as much the service gets sold, the partner also makes money in return, because I will purchase as much from the partner at the back end. So I hope I have answered your question. I mean,
You have.
Yeah,
You have, and I'm sure that this universe of partners and co-creation, will grow as the footprint of Yotta grows in India. You very beautifully, in one of your answers, you very beautifully captured the gap that exists in India, and how that gap will be bridged by the players like you. Is going to be a very fascinating story, because not only does the government has an emphasis on a very large footprint of data centers which give coverages to every nook and corner of the country, every section of the society, you know but also offer such innovative services, so that people change their mindset. People start utilizing these services as their, primary way of using IT. Utilizing IT, on-prem IT, I think are very numbered nowadays. We are just seeing the demise of that whole on-prem IT. It may exist for some more time for some crucial workloads, but the writing is on the wall. So finally, Sunil, coming to an end of this wonderful, beautiful conversation, I would like to ask, while predicting the future is something that we should all be very wary of, what should we expect from Yotta in the next 12 months? Of course, besides the data centers that you have spoken about.
Yeah, Rahul. So I would say the journey is on. The journey never ends. There are many initiatives on which we are working, and as you said, that besides expanding our Navi Mumbai data center footprint, fitting out more and more floors, to building and completing our first data center in Noida, and also starting our first data center in Chennai. The one thing I can clearly see is that the demand is much bigger. So I may end up starting at least one more or two more buildings in Delhi within this next 1 year itself.
Okay.
Right. I will surely start the construction of my Gujarat data center as well during the same period. We are as much going towards formalizing our plans for edge data centers. That is a strategy which is in the works for the last couple of months now. We have quite fine-tuned our blueprint. We are creating some good partnerships. That is a different animal altogether, by the way. Creating a large 7,000 racks data center at one location is one animal, but creating 20 racks small data center in 100 cities, and each city being a type 2 city with different dynamics of each city, brings different dynamics altogether. So, but we are going through those challenges as they come, and we are actually envisaging that at least first phase of our edge data centers, which comprise of 8 to 10 edge data centers in some strategic type 2 cities, will be in place by the time we complete the next 12 months. In terms of the services, I would like to enhance, and what we are in the process of doing, our cloud services in a significant way. We are working on a new cloud platform for Yotta. Right now, we are running a cloud platform and delivering services through that. I can see from a scalability point of view, I need to create a much bigger infrastructure with much more variety of services and much more, I would say, resilience. That is where we are working on. You might know that we onboarded Said Pirzadeh, who was the group CIO of Reliance Entertainment, as Chief Cloud Officer, and he is focusedly working towards that. We have brought in application services into the market. You know, Rajesh Garg, who was the CIO of Trident, came into Yotta to lead that practice. We have launched full array of SAP services in the market already. We have more than 20 customers there, and we see SAP, Oracle, and some of the platforms like Darwinbox and Salesforce, which we have deployed internally at Yotta and fully automated ourselves. We also plan to take such products to market at an application layer. And finally, going beyond, I would say, data center and services, in general, we genuinely feel very connected to the fact that maybe that we have got an opportunity to lead this ecosystem, to create narrative in the ecosystem. So we continue to, right from starting, we continue to espouse the cause of data center in the country. We have, I would say, done our own bit in contributing to the data center policies of the central government, in data center policies of various state governments. We are trying to put forward the needs of the industry to the stakeholders. And the good part is all the government at central level and state level are very, very passionate about it, sympathetic about it, and they know that their own growth as a government depends on more digitalization and supporting infrastructure like data centers. So that is another work we are doing. And lastly, we want to really continue doing our job of creating awareness about data centers, outsourcing, cloud, as much as we can, about the need of sustainability, scalability, uptime of data centers. So while in the last 2 years, as you know, you were such a big partner of ours in this journey, that we took messages to the entire CIO community about creating awareness in direct or indirect way. In pandemic time, they wanted to listen something what was relevant at that time. Later on, we kept on changing the narrative, but in direct or indirect way, we keep on reaching out to the community. Absolutely. We are now, besides bringing customers, which is from business point, we have started bringing students of colleges and schools and also family members to our data centers, just to give them a little awareness of what data centers are and what role they play in their digital life. So this, we think, is our own contribution, besides creating large data centers and, launching new services.
Yeah, I must say that, in this 1 hour, 60 minutes, I have tasked you to give me a summary of what Yotta has done in the past 2 years' time. However, I must compliment and congratulate you that you have changed the trend. I mean, Yotta has become a trendsetter, and if I can officially and unofficially say that, I think the heat is being felt by the existing players, and that's good for the industry, because when a service provider like Yotta brings in brings in such a variety of services which weren't really expected from a data center player, then I think you have already leapfrogged miles and miles. You have upended the game, and that will benefit both the customers and the industry. So with those words, thank you so much, Sunil, for being on the show, and I'm sure we will play this interview for a longer period of time on our website as well. So congratulations to you, all the best, and thank you very much for being on our show.
Thank you, Rahul. Thank you so much for being a great host and for being a great partner and being a great friend. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.